Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about fascinating archaeological sites, the legendary creatures that may have built them, and even precious stones. Let's begin. Across the world, we can find fascinating sites that we are not sure who built them and how. For example, in this area in Israel, in ancient Canaan, you can find many of those, and I will give you an example of three. The first is a place called Gilgal. In Hebrew, it means something round. It's a gigantic megalithic spiral monument that we're not sure who built it, but we do know that it is synchronized with the movement of solar bodies in the heavens. Like many other ancient sites in the world, we know that in the shortest day of the year, the light crosses to a specific place in the center of the Gilgal. We're not sure which one of the ancient nations in the area built this place, and we're not sure how. Maybe it was a temple. Perhaps it was a place where they buried important people of the community, or maybe the entire community as a gateway to the afterlife. Perhaps it is connected to agriculture. If you want to know when the seasons change, you need to follow the movement of the solar bodies. And once you do that, you know how to work with agriculture in this area. But one way or the other, it is a mystery. Same with the place called Line K. Line K is in the desert. It hardly has any angles unless someone meant that they will be there, and we also know that it synchronizes with the times of the sundown and the sunrise each day. Scientists today still don't understand how ancient people could have created something which is so precise and linked and synchronized with the movement of the sun. Another interesting phenomena that we're not sure who built is something called dolmens. It is not unique only to this area, but a dolmen is a few very heavy stones placed one on top of another, creating some kind of a gate or a shape of a gate. We don't know who was able to lift up such heavy stones and place them in such a way one on top of the other, because it is very clear that it's not something that nature did. When we are struggling to understand or to find explanations of how something was built, what comes in are the legends. In former videos we talked about creatures of wonders, and some legends say that all of those sites were built by giants. In the biblical stories, we hear the name of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the children of angels who came down to earth and fell in love with human women. We talked about Naamah, that they say that she was so beautiful that she was the reason they came down to earth. From the meetings of those angels and the human women, giants are being born. Later interpretations will say that one of the reasons that the flood happened was actually to get rid of those giants that maybe ate human flesh and maybe had no place in the original creation. They say that at least one survived, and his name was Og, and he was a king in the northern part of Israel. And the reason that he survived was because he was hanging really tight to the side of Noah's ark, and one of Noah's children gave him food. They say that he ruled for many years in northern Israel, and at some point they found this very big stone-shaped bed, and they say that this was the bed of King Og. Another person that we hear was a giant was Goliath, the person that David fought. Now, it is not written in the Bible, but later interpretations will say that the way that is being described says that he was a giant. So this is an example of how a legend allows us to understand things that we cannot explain in scientific ways. And until modern archaeology or science will be able to answer questions about those monuments, we have legends. Another legend speaks of a very special stone called Shamir. Shamir was a stone or an organic matter. It wasn't a stone the way we think of a stone. Some say it was even a worm. It was some kind of an organic matter that could break other stones if it touched them. The Shamir stone was kept and supervised by a wild rooster, and when Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, he went to find the rooster and the stone. The one who told him where the stone is Asmodeus, the king of demons. And after he finds the Shamir and brings it to Jerusalem, he is able to cut and carve through very heavy stones and build a magnificent temple. We know that stories of precious stones were something that was very common in those areas. Lapis lazuli, turquoise, these were stones that were precious to goddesses. We hear the story of the chessboard of the high priest in the temple in Jerusalem. He had 12 precious stones in this chessboard. Each stone represented a tribe of the ancient Israelites. When he was seeking answers regarding dilemmas and questions the people were dealing with, he actually used those stones that produced lights and sounds and helped him to find a divine answer to the questions. Magical staffs are also something that we hear of. Moses, for example, had one. He could turn it from a serpent into a staff, and he used it to part in the sea. When we meet phenomena that we do not know how to explain, it is stories and legends that help us to understand things that we can't. Perhaps it was magical creatures such as giants and magical stones and magical staffs that assisted building those mysterious sites. But until we find another explanation, we are left with the mystery, the magic, and the legends. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.